Before we connect to our Telnet server, I want to show you some options that you can use in PuTTY. Like you see, I've got my PuTTY open, and now I can type here a server IP address, and of course the port number, and the connection type Telnet. Before I connect, I want to change appearance. I will go to Window and next Appearance, and here I can change, for example, font that will be shown in the terminal. Click Change. I'm gonna choose Courier New, bold, and size 12. Press OK. You can of course change the colors for your cursor text. Let me say 205 and next 50. You can always use a color palette to modify those colors, like you see foreground, bold foreground, and many other. If you click Modify, you can choose from this palette and click OK. It will be saved. My color will be looking like this one. So I'm gonna hit OK, and I also gonna change default foreground to the same color. Now we need to go back to Sessions, and we can save this settings for our session, typing simple firewall session, and next pressing save. Settings for the session will be saved, and now if you ever want to load this session after opening your PuTTY, all you need to do is to click Firewall Session, next Load, like you see settings are loaded, and next hit Open. I'm gonna log using my credentials, and clear my terminal. First I'm gonna use sudo su just to use high privileges. And I'm gonna clear a little bit our terminal. Go to root catalog and next clear. First I want to show you how to create a new chain. Like you know, we've got some chains on a board in a firewall. You can easily take a look at them using iptables -L, like you know from previous lesson. After hitting enter, you see here you've got a in filter table, because it's a default table, input, forward and output. If you want to type the name of a table, of course you can just hit dash, next T, type a name of your table, and you should see the same. Like you see, we see the same. How can we create a new chain? To create a new chain, you need to use IP tables, of course, next dash capital N, and type a name of your chain. Like this, it won't gonna work. Why? Because IP tables see two names. If you want to name your new chain test chain, you should use dash, for example, between test and chain, and next, after hitting enter, your chain will be created. We can check it using dash, but instead of capital L, we're gonna use capital S. You can choose between those two views, it's depend on you. Now we've got, like you see, a new chain here. And what if we want to change the name of this chain? We can do it typing IP tables dash capital E. Next, we must type our chain name you want to change, and the new name that we will give to our chain. For example, new name. After hitting enter, and next using capital S option, you will see the name was changed. But now if I use IP tables dash capital L, I see something going on, because here I've got some information that are zero references to this chain. How can I change these references right here, the number of the references? To change those informations, I must use this chain like a target in some other chain, because right now, like it was said previously, input is dedicated for input traffic to our firewall, forward traffic to LAN behind the firewall, and output for output traffic. Our new chain with a new name has no dedicated traffic to it, because we must send the traffic to the new chain, and after that send, the packets will be processed into that chain. So to do that, for example, if you want to send the packets from input chain that will be dedicated for our HTTP browser, we must type something like this: IP tables dash. It's a default table filter, so I won't gonna use the name of a table filter. I'm gonna type A for append. So I'm gonna append some new rule into input chain. Next, I'm gonna type input for the name for the chain that the rule will append, and next protocol -p, name of a protocol, so TCP, and next default port, destination default port. So the default port for HTTP traffic will be D port, and next port 80. Now I'm gonna use J option, and next type a name of our new chain. So new name. After hitting enter, if we check again IP tables using capital L option, you will see we've got here one reference. The traffic, maybe I'm gonna clear it just to make it more readable. The traffic that will go into input chain, now if it hit this rule, and it will be a HTTP dedicated traffic, it's gonna be sent to our chain called new name. You know how to create a new chain, probably you want to know how to delete this chain. To delete the chain, you can use -x option and next name of a chain. After hitting enter, like you see, nothing's gonna happen because we got too many links. So before we can delete this chain, we must delete the links. Links, so our rules that are sending traffic to that specified chain. So first we need to delete our rule from input chain. We can do that in many ways, because we can, for example, type IP tables -f and next input, just to flash all rules from input chain. We've got there only one rule, so we can use this option. After hitting enter, if I type something like this, iptables -l and next name of a table, name of a chain, I'm gonna list all rules in this specified chain. Like you see, there are no rules right now. We can also delete the rule using iptables next d, and next you can type whole rule or a number for the rule. But before we do that, we need to add some rule, because now our chain is empty. We're gonna type something simple. We're gonna append a new rule into input chain, and we're gonna let protocol TCP send it on destination port, let's say 4134, to be accepted. Like you see, we've got our rule set it up. Now we can use option like the same rule with D instead of append. We're gonna use delete, and after hitting enter, our rule will be gone. You can always browse history of used commands, of course using arrows or typing something called history. And next, after hitting enter, you can browse commands that you previously used. I'm gonna again use iptables append input for TCP protocol and destination port 4444 rule, just to show you how to check if you want to, for example, use delete options with number of your rule. To get the information about rule number, you should use iptables -L, and next you must type 2 dashes and line numbers. After hitting enter, like you see, we've got here information that our rule accept for the specified port is number 1 rule in input chain. If we add some more rules, let me say port like this one, and now I'm gonna hit enter, this rule that I'm adding now will be added next after this first rule. It's building a hierarchy. First one, next, second one, and all new rules will be added on the bottom. So after hitting enter, like you see, we've got 2 rules, first and the second, and the numbers for them. Now if I want to, for example, delete first rule or second, I can use iptables -d name of a chain, and next, simple, I need to type a number rule, for example 1. After hitting enter, first rule, maybe I use arrows, first rule will be gone, and everything that stays will be our second rule. Now the second rule will be a first rule. You can, of course, change rule that you want to. For example, you know that you won't have any traffic send it on port 888, and you want to change with replace option dash and R this rule into something new. So -R input, and next you must type number of rule you want to change, and type new settings for those rules. So for example, protocol now will be UDP, and now we're gonna have source port, and the source port will be 100 for example, and we're gonna drop this kind of traffic, send it on from source port 100 using UDP protocol. Now after hitting enter and after checking what's happened in our input chain, we're gonna see that on first rule now we've got drop rule with port source port 100. If you've got, for example, many more rules, like in this Trotsky IP tables configuration fragment, we've got here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rules in the input chain. This is not a rule, this tells us that the default input policy is to drop everything that is going to be sent on our input chain. I show you just for a moment how to change the default policy for a chain. Like you see, we've got here 5 rules. This is the fragment of whole configuration from Trotsky IP tables firewall. What if you want to, for example, set now any rule on the first place? In our case, we've got only one rule. Now we're gonna add, and we want to add some rule on the first place. Because, like you know, every next rule we're gonna add using append will be added on the bottom, so will be added like a last rule in a specified chain. Now I want to add a new rule, for example, rule for our telnet connections, and I'm gonna accept this kind of traffic, send it to our telnet server. But if I type this kind of rule like here, I'm gonna add it on the bottom. What to do to add it on the first place? We need to change append to insert, so dash capital E, and next specify the number of the rule that we want to see our new rule. So I'm gonna type here a first place. After hitting enter, I clear our terminal, and like you see, we've got here on the first place accept rule for our telnet connections. How to change a default policy for the chain? Like you know, our default policies are accept whole traffic. If we want to change, for example, traffic for forward connection to be dropped, so we don't want to any users logged on into LAN network to, for example, browse internet or do anything else that uses TCP or UDP connections, we can do that. Typing IP tables, next dash and P option, and next we need to specify the name of chain. If I'll type it right now for input chain, and we won't have any rules that will allow us to connect to the telnet server and to hang on the established connection, because now we are connected, our connection will be dropped and we will lose control of our telnet server. Remember that when you will be doing any changes in the future. Now we need to type forward, because there are no connections for a forward chain, and we can easily use this in our test. And for forward connection, we're gonna set up drop policy. IP tables dash capital P forward drop will do it for us. Now if you check your policy status, for forward chain we've got here specified a drop policy. All traffic that we want to allow to be established in the future in this chain, you should add with accept target. Like you see, I already changed a default policy for forward chain again to accept. Now I want to show you some other option. This option again capital L and the name of a chain dash and V will show you how many packets reach our specified rule. Like you see, 0 packets reach UDP from source port 100 because we've got no traffic from this port that reach our firewall. But right here we've got 321 packets. Here we've got information about bytes from telnet traffic, because we are now connected via telnet to our telnet server located on firewall. You can always flash the memory of packets that reach your rule, simple using IP tables dash capital Z input, and for example you can type a number of a rule. This rule is first rule, so I can type 1, and after again using input with V option, I see the packets were flashed, because now it starts from 0 to counting the packets. Now we've got 7 packets reach this rule. At the end I want to show you how I'm reading a firewall's rules. For example, if we get firewall rules specified in this kind of configuration file, of course we can do it line by line. So from this one here, flashing existing IP tables rules, we will know that here are making some flash. IP tables are flashed. Next table net is flashed because -f only flash rules from our filter table, so the default table, if you want to flash next tables, so for example net or mangle or other, we need to specify the name of a table. So after dash and capital F, we need to add table information. Next, here they want to remove any custom chain. Next we have information about default chains policy. So for input chain it's a drop policy, output accept, and for forward is drop to. Next we've got some other settings that I will tell you about in future. And next, like you see, again input chain, a little bit upper forward mangle. It's looked like a complete mess. Why? Because they are grouped by targets. So for example, by prevent packet fragmentation, we got two rules up here. Prevent ping of death, we got again two rules right here. So how to get known what is going on in those firewalls rules? I propose to group them by chain. Like you see, I've got here input chain and IP tables from the first rule, from the previous Trotsky configuration fragment, to the fifth rule, and there are some also next rules. On the first we've got default policy drop. On the fourth position we've got information that some traffic from 192.168.1.0/24, some from the base network, is disallowed. No, it's not disallowed because we've got exclamation mark right here. The exclamation mark means that everything is disallowed in this case except this network, so 192.168.1.0. Everything that will be sent from this network, so the source of the packet will be coming from this network, will be accepted. Everything else will be dropped. Like you see, right here we've got same situation, exclamation mark and dport 5000. That means that everything is not allowed except telnet traffic. Send it to the port 5000 and send it from the network right here, from the network up here, so from the network 192.168.1.0. If we try to connect from other network, the Trotsky configuration will not allow us to connect to our firewall. Only connections from this network to that destination port are allowed in this case, based on those two rules. I think those kind of groups for input, output, forward chain will allow you to make your configuration more readable and to check easier errors in your firewall.